Oakdean Down sits on the rolling outskirts of Barony, its gently curving streets lined with neat hedges, manicured lawns, and the occasional horse paddock. On the morning of August 29, 2016, the sun rose as it always did, soft golden light filtering through birch leaves, the call of magpies drifting on the breeze. Yet behind the thick hedges of the Haw family home, something was terribly amiss. Retired teacher Mary Call had arranged for her daughter, Clodagh Haw, to drop off her two youngest grandchildren, Niall, 11, and Ryan, 6, before midday. When no one answered Mary's calls or texts, she felt a prickle of unease. Pulling on a light jacket, she climbed into her car and began the familiar 5-minute drive down Oakdean Lane. As she turned into the Haw driveway, Mary noted both family cars parked silently under the carport. The heavy curtains hung unmoved across the sitting room windows. Even the bedroom drapes were drawn. Clodagh, a vibrant primary school teacher at Oristown National School, never shirked sunlight or fresh air. Alarmed, Mary retrieved her spare key from beneath a flower pot and slipped it into the kitchen door's lock. Inside, the hum of the refrigerator and the faint ticking of a clock were the only sounds. Then Mary saw the note, white A4 paper scrawled in her son-in-law, Allan Haw's unmistakable handwriting. "Do not enter. Call the guards immediately." Mary's heart thudded. Allan was a deputy principal at Castle Rayhan National School, a respected educator with a calm demeanor. Why would he bar her entry? She dialed 999 at exactly 10:40 a.m., her voice trembling as she told the operator, Please hurry. Something's happened to my daughter and my grandchildren." Moments later, she dashed across the hedge to her neighbor, Edith Harrigan, breathless and shaking. "Allan's done something terrible," she whispered. Edith wrapped her in an embrace as blue lights bounced across the lane. Within minutes, Garda Allan Ratcliffe arrived, calm but urgent. Mary handed over the key. He steeled himself for what lay inside. Garda Ratcliffe stepped into a tableau of horror. In the sitting room, Clodagh lay prone on a floral couch, still clad in pastel pajamas, her head grotesquely swollen and dark with blood. On the carpet lay an axe, its metal head streaked with crimson, and a kitchen knife, both tools of unspeakable violence. In the hallway lay Allan Haw, his uniform trousers and shirt rumpled, a small pistol by his side. He had died by his own hand. A quick check confirmed no other occupants had fled. The house was sealed in its deadly silence. Ratcliffe ascended the stairwell with grim resolve. To his left, in two adjoining rooms, lay Liam, 13, and Niall, 11. Both boys lay on their beds, their throats slashed with clinical precision. Gina, the school nurse at Castle Rayhan, later testified that such wounds were unlikely to be inflicted in panic. They spoke of deliberate intent. At the top of the stairs, Ratcliffe found 6-year-old Ryan on a tiny mattress, clutching a faded Star Wars blanket. A small carving knife rested on his pillow, its blade clean save for a thin smear of blood. Ryan's body showed evidence of repeated sawing motions, his injuries crueler, more prolonged than those of his brothers. Downstairs, Ratcliffe emerged pale-faced to break the news to Mary and Edith. 5 lives snuffed out, no survivors. Mary wept openly. Edith placed a steady hand on her shoulder. The place where children once chased each other among toys now lay hushed, sealed under sheets of plastic. Forensic technicians combed every surface, taking swabs, photographs, and meticulous notes, evidence against a man who had claimed responsibility in blood. On the kitchen table, detectives found a sealed envelope and loose pages, some splattered with blood. Inside, Allan Haw's handwriting curled across white paper. "All the good things we did. I was really into it, but I think some psychosis made me enjoy the violence. Then I was the complete opposite. I'm sorry for how I murdered them all. I simply had no other way." Investigators concluded Allan wrote the first half immediately after killing Clodagh, then paused, sealed it, and continued writing after disposing of his sons. Forensic analysts lifted Allan's right palm print from the blood-soaked axe handle. They estimated the time of death for Clodagh at roughly 2:15 a.m., Liam and Niall at 2:45 a.m., Ryan at 3 a.m. Allan transferred 2,500 euros from the family's joint bank account into his personal account, money he perhaps intended to leave for funeral expenses or to seed a final act of control from beyond the grave. Detective Sergeant Bridneam Hawe, skilled in behavioral profiling, noted the methodical sequence: wife first, then eldest son to silence resistance, youngest last. Allan arranged the weapons carefully: knife on pillow, axe beside couch, symbols of his twisted order. To neighbors and colleagues, Allan Haw had been the model of stability. Originally from Wingap, County Kilkenny, he rose through the ranks to become deputy principal. He coached under-12s Gaelic football on weekends and volunteered for parish concerts. Clodagh hailed from Mount Nugent, County Cavan, and was known for her warm smile and dedication to literacy programs. Yet in early 2016, Allan's flawless facade cracked. School IT logs revealed visits to pornography sites on his work laptop, 97% of his traffic, discovered by an internal audit. The incident was hushed away. No public scandal erupted. Behind closed doors, Clodagh confided to Mary that Allan had sought counseling for a pornography addiction. He attended weekly therapy sessions with counselor David McConnell from March through June 2016. Counseling notes, later submitted at the coroner's court, revealed chronic insomnia, a sense of failure to maintain his image, and shame over imperfections. He spoke of run-down health and even resorted to treating a toenail fungus with bleach. His general practitioner prescribed sleeping pills but detected no overt signs of depression. No psychiatrist warned of homicidal or suicidal ideation. Mary recalled that winter, Allan seemed distracted, Clodagh more withdrawn. But their public roles, teacher, principal, demanded composure. The community, unaware of their private torment, continued to praise the fantastic family. Word of the Haw family massacre ripped through Barony like wildfire. Candlelight vigils were held at Castle Rayhan National School, where pupils laid flowers at a makeshift memorial. Parents wept openly at soccer pitches. Church congregations prayed for the lost angels. A special mass was said for Clodagh and her sons at St. Michael's, where the priest spoke of darkness hidden behind human kindness. Local media dubbed Allan Haw the most normal man you could meet, showing photos of him laughing at school fairs. Women's rights groups decried the sympathetic coverage, arguing that portraying Allan primarily as a troubled educator obscured the cold brutality of his crimes. Advocates called for better mental health screening in schools and more transparent communication from guards to victims' families. Meanwhile, Mary and Clodagh's sister, Jacqueline Call, fought for access to Allan's counseling records and the witness statements guards had collected. They discovered an anonymous tipster had spotted Allan driving the family car near the school at 6:30 a.m., hours before bodies were found. The witness gave a detailed statement, but it was not released to the family until 2018. On December 19, 2017, the coroner's court in Cavan convened to hear testimony and expert reports. Professor Harry Kennedy, a forensic psychiatrist, reviewed Allan's GP notes, counseling records, and suicide letter. Without meeting Allan in person, he concluded that Allan suffered from a long-term depressive disorder, compounded by somatic preoccupations and escalating guilt. By August 2016, these symptoms had metamorphosed into a psychotic episode, hallucinations not documented but implied by voices in the letter. Allan had expressed fears of burdening his family. "I cannot let them face a life without me, and the shame of my suicide. I have wanted to kill myself for a long time now." Professor Kennedy emphasized that severe mental illness can distort judgment to the point where murder-suicide seems to the sufferer a twisted form of mercy or redemption. After brief jury deliberation, just 10 minutes, the verdict was returned. Allan's death was self-inflicted, and the homicides were confirmed. The inquest recommended increased funding for mental health interventions and protocols for monitoring behavioral changes in school staff. Despite the inquest's findings, Mary and Jacqueline confronted new battles. They faced over €50,000 in legal fees fighting for document release under Ireland's Succession Act of 1965, which stalled reforms. They lobbied the Irish government and worked with women's rights groups to push for faster access to evidence in cases of domestic violence and family tragedy. In July 2019, Oristown National School unveiled the Clodagh Haw Memorial Hall, a community gathering space dedicated to her passion for reading and learning. Plaques bearing the names of Clodagh, Liam, Niall, and Ryan hang in the lobby, a permanent reminder that behind statistics and hearing rooms lie real lives and shattered dreams. The Haw family murders remain among the most harrowing in modern Irish history, a calculated spree carried out by a father and husband whose kindly reputation masked a profound inner torment. Their story underscores the importance of vigilance, recognizing that mental health struggles can lurk unseen, and of compassion for victims' families caught in the wake of violence. Oakdean Downs, once serene, still bears the imprint of that August morning. Neighbors speak in hushed tones. Children avoid the empty house at the top of the lane. But the Clodagh Haw Memorial Hall buzzes with life, school plays, literacy workshops, and summer camps. There, the community honors the vivacious teacher and her children, transforming tragedy into a beacon of shared resilience. In remembering Clodagh, Liam, Niall, and Ryan, we confront the fragility of the facade each of us presents. We acknowledge that love can coexist with despair, that a life of service can end in brutal betrayal, and that our best response is not fear, but action, supporting mental health care, standing by those in crisis, and ensuring that every good family's shadows can be brought into the light. That is it for today's video. Let me know in the comments what you think of today's video, and I will see you next time.